to my YouTube channel, and in this lesson we are going to talk about cells. We are going to understand what cells are. I'm going to make this topic very simple. So what is a cell? I wrote down this definition of a cell where I said a cell is the smallest unit of a living organism. So each time we are talking about a cell, we are talking about a smallest unit of a living organism. And where can we find these cells? A cell can be found in an animal. We can find a cell in an animal, or we can find a cell in a plant. So these are places where we can find a cell. A cell can be found in an animal. A cell can also be found in a plant. So we are saying that a cell is the smallest unit of a living organism. So we are talking about a what? A living organism. Keep that. So you know that a cell is the smallest. So whenever we are talking about something which is small, which means that cells are too small to be seen by the naked eyes. But there is an instrument that can be used to view a cell. So what do we call that instrument? That instrument is called a microscope. So there is this instrument called a microscope. This is an instrument that is used to observe a cell. So a microscope is an instrument used to magnify images of objects that are too small to be seen by our naked eyes. So these, they are going to do what? They are going to magnify. Their main aim is to magnify. So they are going to magnify a small thing so that it can be large and viewed by our own eyes. This is what you need to understand. So what is the main aim of a microscope? The main aim of a microscope is to magnify images of objects that are too small to be seen by the naked eye. This is the use of a microscope. So we've got, there are about two groups of microscopes that you need to know. So these exist in two. There are about two groups of microscopes that you need to know and understand. There is what we call a light microscope. So the first one is called, so the first type is called a light microscope. So a light microscope. This is what you need to understand. So these are groups of microscope that are used under cells. We've got a light microscope. The second one, we have an electronic microscope. So we've got an electron microscope. So like this microscope, like that. So these are the two types of microscopes that we have. So whenever we are talking about a light microscope shows a simple structure of a cell. So this one here, which is a light microscope, this one will show a simple structure. So it is going to show a simple what? A simple structure. It will show a simple structure of a cell. But when we are talking about a electron microscope, this one will show a detailed structure of a cell. So this one shows the what? A detailed. It is going to show a detailed structure. It is going to show us a detailed structure of a cell. Detailed structure of a cell. So whenever you want to view a detailed structure of a cell, we use an electron microscope. But whenever you want to see a simple structure of a cell, we use what we call a light microscope. These are two groups of microscopes that you need to understand. So let us now look at how a cell is viewed under a light microscope. So we look at a simple structure of a plant cell and an animal cell. So we look at a simple structure. Let us look at a simple structure. So we look at a simple structure. simple structure. So we look at a simple structure of a what? An animal cell. So we're going to look at an animal cell, animal and plant cell. So like these plant cells. So I'm going to do that. This is what we are going to look at. So how is a cell, how is an animal cell when it is viewed using a light microscope? So an animal cell, this is an animal cell. I'm going to do this so that you understand. This is an animal cell. So an animal cell is like this. This is how an animal cell is. Then that is the nucleus. Then whenever we've got a plant cell, so this is a plant cell. I'm going to do this. This is a plant cell. This is an animal cell. So a plant cell is like this, well shaped like this. It is well shaped. This is how a plant cell is. So this is how a plant cell is. This is how you need to understand a plant cell. So let me do this. Okay, this is how a plant cell is, like this. This is how it is. So from here now we have got this part that is like this. We've got this part there. This is where we find the nucleus, like this. Have you seen? So these are two types of cells that we have. So these are simple structures of cells. So we've got this part here, and this part is similar. So what do we call that part? That part is called a nucleus. So you need to understand that part. It is called a nucleus. This part is called a nucleus. So I'm going to tell you the functions of all these parts that I'm going to label here. I'm going to explain to you so that you understand all the structures that we are going to discuss here. We've got that one. We also have this part here. We have that part here. This part is called cytoplasm. This part is called cytoplasm. So just this part that is here, it is called cytoplasm. Then we've got this part here, and that part here, the inside part that is there, that is called what? That is called a cell membrane. So I'm going to explain to you the functions of all these cells so that we get an understanding from this. So this is what you need to know. This is what you need to understand. We've got it like that. Then we also have this one that is here. We also have this one. This is called a cell wall. This is called a cell wall. You need to understand that one. Then inside a plant cell, we have these structures that look like this. We've got these structures that look like this. These are structures that move, they look like this. Then what do we call that structure? So that structure, this structure here, is called a chloroplast. It is called a what? A chloroplast. From the word chlorophyll. I'm going to explain all this so that you understand. We also have this one that is there. This one is called a what? We call that as a vacuum. So that one is called a vacuum. So I want you to understand all this. It is called a what? It is called a vacuum. So this is a simple structure of an animal cell and a plant cell. These are two simple structures of an animal cell and a plant cell. So you need to make sure that you understand these two parts. You know their meanings. You know their parts, so that when such a question comes in an exam, you are able to answer something that will fall under this. You are able to answer something. So now there is a certain part that I want to discuss with you people before we continue. There is what we call this part. I think you've heard of it. It is called protoplasm. I think you've heard of this word. There is what we call a protoplasm. So a protoplasm, this is a living part of a cell which comprises of different cellular organelles. So whenever we are talking about this, we know that this one contains 3 parts which are in both cells. So it contains 3 what? It contains 3 parts which are in both cells. So this one, it is comprises of the nucleus. So we've got these 3 parts which are the what? The nucleus. We have the cytoplasm. We have the cytoplasm and a what? And a cell membrane. So these 3 makes up protoplasm, called cell membrane. So these 3 makes up the what? The protoplasm. But aside these, we also have some elements which are found in the protoplasm. We've got carbon, nitrogen, hydrogen, and oxygen. These are the major ones that are found in the what? So I've listed a few. I've said we've got carbon. This is a symbol for carbon. We've got hydrogen. We've got nitrogen. We've got oxygen. So these are major ones which are occupying a space of about 95%, like this. Then though the 5%, so the 5% is given to, we've got calcium, you talk of magnesium, you talk of sodium, just to list a few. You talk of potassium, you talk of sulfur, you talk of iron, like that. So, but 95% is being occupied by these 4 ones, which is carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, and oxygen. This is what you need to know and understand under this. So, before we move on, there is also another part that you need to get. There is another part we look at now under this. Maybe if a question comes where you are told to list some similarities that are in a plant cell and an animal cell. So what are some of the similarities? So the similarities, just need to understand this word, which is protoplasm. So protoplasm contains a nucleus, cytoplasm, and cell membrane. So these 3 are found in both cells. So when you are told to give a similarity, give 2 similarities between a plant cell and an animal cell, is that both of them have a nucleus, both of them have a cytoplasm, both of them have a cell membrane. So these are some of the similarities that you can give when you encounter such a question. Then we can also discuss some of the differences that are here if you are taught to give some of the differences in an exam. So when you look at an animal cell, what are you able to observe? It doesn't have a cell wall. So that is a difference. An animal cell doesn't have a cell wall, while a plant cell has a cell wall. So these are what you need to understand. When you look at this side, do we have a vacuum this side? Do we have a vacuum? So you are able to tell that this one, whenever we are talking about this first part, this is a plant cell. So a plant cell has a large permanent vacuum. Have you seen? So whenever you are talking, this is a plant cell. So a plant cell has a what? A permanent vacuum. I think you know the vacuum, the one here, which I labeled as the vacuum. So a plant cell has a permanent vacuum. But whenever you are talking about an animal cell does not have a large permanent vacuum. You can even observe by your own eyes, you can tell the difference. Then you can tell that here we've got chloroplast, here, chloroplast. Do we have chloroplast here? Do we have structures of chloroplast? No. So that is a difference. A plant cell has chloroplast, while an animal cell does not have chloroplast. Then the other reason or the other difference that you can give is their shapes. Have you seen the way this shape is and the way this shape is? A plant cell, the shape is, it has got a regular shape and a bigger size. Have you seen the way it is? Like this. This is a regular shape and a bigger size. But this one is irregular and a smaller size. These are some of the differences that you can give between an animal cell and a plant cell. So these are some of the things that you can give. Now let us look at a detailed structure of a plant cell. So we will start with the plant cell. We will look at the detailed structure of a plant cell. The detailed structure of a plant cell. These are the parts that you need to know. So this is a detailed structure. So when we view a cell using an electron microscope, we view a detailed structure. So a detailed structure, these are structures that are seen when we view using an electron microscope. So what are some of the parts here that you need to know? When we start from here, you know that that is a plant cell. That is this whole thing here. This is a plant cell. Here we start with, that is a cell wall. We've got a cell wall. That is a cell wall. You need to understand that that is a cell wall. We've got this one that is here. This is a cell membrane. You need to understand all these structures. We've got these structures. These structures that look like this. These are called mitochondrion. Have you seen? Like this. This is a mitochondrion. We've got these. Have you seen the way that one is? This one that is here. This is called tonoplast. This one that there is a structure there. Then this one here. This is called tonoplast. Then we've got a vacuole. This is a vacuole. I think you are able now to relate from what we are just from covering. We've got these bodies that look like this. We've got those structures that look like this. Those structures that look like this. Those are called what? Golgi apparatus. That's what we call them. Then we've got cytoplasm that is there. That is what? Cytoplasm. So I want you to understand all these structures. We go here. These small ones, these small things that you're able to see, these ones, they are not cytoplasm, but they are called what? What do we call these? They are called ribosomes. This is what we call them. Then we've got these round structures, these big round structures. These are called chloroplasts. Then we've got these two structures that you need to know. We've got this one, which is endoplasmic reticulum. So the endoplasmic reticulum, this one that is here, it is in two. There's what we call, the way it is, have you seen the way it is? It is a smooth endoplasmic reticulum. Why? Because there are no bodies that are attached to this. Have you seen? We don't have these ribosomes that are attached to this one. So it is called a smooth endoplasmic reticulum. Then we go to this other one that is here. This one is a rough one. This is rough endoplasmic reticulum. Like this. Have you seen the way it is? Like that. It is having some bodies which are attached to it. Then we've got this one. Have you seen the way? This one that is inside there. All these, this is a nucleus. So a nucleus is made up of three things that you need to know. So this is a nucleus on its own. This is a nucleus. But we've got a nuclear pore. This is it. This is a nuclear pore. We've got a nuclear membrane. A membrane. Have you seen a nuclear membrane? Yeah, those structures there. Then we've got nucleoplasm. Nucleoplasm. This one here. That is there. Then we've got nucleolus. This one that is there. Have you seen where it is pointing there? Like that. That is what you need to know. So these are some of the structures that you need to get and understand. So I'm going to explain all these even as we get to look at their functions one by one. So we look at the function of these one by one. We try to see and understand. So let us look at now a detailed structure of an animal cell. We look at a detailed structure of an animal cell. This is a detailed structure of an animal cell. So these parts which are labeled here, you need to make sure that you know them and you understand them. So we've got the first one, we've got this one, which is here. This is a cell membrane. You know how a cell membrane is. That is a cell membrane. we've got cytoplasm. Cytoplasm, just found there, cytoplasm. This is the cytoplasm that is here. Then we also have this one here, which is a large endoplasmic reticulum. It is having those bodies attached to it. But that one that is there, this is a smooth endoplasmic reticulum. This is what you need to understand. Then we've got the structure which is here, this one that is here. The same way that I described the nucleus. This is how this one is. A nucleus is made up of 1, 2, 3. These 4 parts, 1, 2, 3, 4. All of them, they form a nucleus. We've got these same bodies here. Have you seen? I was calling them what? Golgi bodies. There I was saying Golgi apparatus. So you can say Golgi bodies or Golgi apparatus. So then we've got mitochondrion. This is mitochondrion. Have you seen the way it is like a sausage? These ones that are standing like that. Ribosomes are these dotted things here, which are here. Those are called ribosomes. So these are parts that you need to know. These are parts that you need to get and understand. So let's make sure we know all these, we understand all these clearly. Hope you are able to see how this diagram is. You are able to see, you are able to understand. So let us now look at the functions of cell parts. We look at the function of the cell parts. We look at the functions of cell parts. So the same parts that we've discussed about on a simple structure and on a detailed structure, we are going to look at these functions. So let us look at these functions. So what are some of these functions? I'll start with these ones. I'll start with this one, which is a nucleus. What is the function of a nucleus? The function of a nucleus is to control. So this one is to control cell activities. To control cell activities. This is a function of a nucleus, to control cell activities. So its function is just to control cell activities. So the function of the nucleus is to control cell activities. We also have the cell membrane. We have the cell membrane. What is this function of a cell membrane? So what is the function of a cell membrane? So you know that this part is made up of lipids and proteins. So this one is responsible for controlling the substances that enters or leaves the cell. So this is a selective membrane. Have you seen? So this one is it controls those things that enters or leaves leaves a cell. So this one, it is responsible for what? Controlling. So this one controlling substances. So substances that leaves or enters a cell. So that leaves or enters a cell. This is what you need to know and understand. We move to the other one. The one that we are going to talk about is called a cytoplasm. So there is a cytoplasm. So we need to understand what a cytoplasm is and the function of a cytoplasm. So under a cytoplasm, what we need to know is that it contains suspended cell structures called organelles, and it is a site for cell activities. So this is a site for cell activities. Have you seen site for cell activities? This is what you need to understand under this. So I just want you to get these brief functions which I'm giving. Then there is what we call a mitochondrion. I talked about this, a mitochondrion. In plural, we can call this as mitochondria. So what is the function of this? So this one is called a powerhouse of the cell. This is the what? Powerhouse of the cell. This is where respiration takes place, things like that. So this is a what? A powerhouse. We can just say this is a what? A powerhouse. This is a powerhouse. This is a powerhouse. This is where respiration takes place. Then we've got these parts here which are called, we've got these parts, what do we call these? Ribosomes. These are ribosomes. These are small round structures in a what? In the cell where protein synthesis takes place. Have you seen? This is where what? Protein synthesis takes place. This is what you need to know and understand. So protein synthesis takes place in these ribosomes. Then there is what we call there is this part here which we were calling an endoplasmic. It is called endoplasmic. We talked of this one, reticulum, like this. This is what we need to know. This is what we need to get. So whenever we are talking about this one, so each time you are discussing this one, what you need to understand is this. So this part here, like this, I'm going to do this so that we understand. So each time we are talking about this one, this is a network of membrane used for transportation of substances within the cytoplasm. So there are two types of endoplasmic reticulum which we discussed. There is a smooth one. So there is a smooth one. We've got a smooth one. We also have a rough one. So we've got a smooth one and a rough one. So we've got a smooth one and a rough one. So these are two types that we have. So a rough endoplasmic reticulum has ribosomes on its surfaces and transports protons. Those ones that they were like structures like this. So these rough ones have got these, they are those ribosomes. Have you seen? This is what I've talked about. So they have got ribosomes on their surfaces and transports proteins. We've got a smooth endoplasmic reticulum which has no ribosomes on its body. So this one, which is a smooth, don't have these ribosomes on its body or on its surface. Hence, it transports lipids. So these transports what? Proteins. You need to understand proteins. So these ones transport what? Lipids. This is what you need to get. So a rough one, this is a rough one. So this is how you need to get this. This is how you need to understand this part. Hope you are understanding this. So we talk of this one, bodies. So what is the function of these? So these are what? Whenever we are talking about this, the function of this is just to carry proteins. So these just carry proteins. Carry what? Proteins. So these ones just carry proteins. They just carry proteins. This is the function of these. The function is to carry proteins. They just carry proteins. We've got so I'm just explaining these in brief so that we understand. We've got chloroplast. Chloroplast, this one is very simple. These are green pigments. So this one, they carry out photosynthesis. So whenever you are talking about a chloroplast, these carry out photosynthesis. They contain a green pigment called chlorophyll which absorbs light energy for photosynthesis. Have you seen? So the function of this is to carry out photosynthesis. To carry out what? Photosynthesis. This is what you need to know and understand. There is also a structure called a vacuum. So this is a what? This is a vacuum. So what is a vacuum? A vacuum, this is a fluid filled. This is a what? This is a fluid This is a fluid-filled space inside the cytoplasm of a plant cell. This is what you need to understand. This it contains a fluid called cell sap, and it is surrounded by a membrane called tonoplast. So the concentration of the cell sap plays a role in the movement of water in and out of a cell. This is what you need to understand about this one. Then lastly, I'm going to talk about a cell wall. This is what I'm going to talk about. What is a cell wall? This is the outmost boundary of the plant cell. That's all that you need to understand under a cell wall. So it is made up of substances called cellulose. So let me do this. Made up of substance called cellulose, like this. These are substances are made up of. It is made of these substances like that. So it is important for protection against damage and prevention of bursting when the plant cell gains a lot of water. It also gives shape to the plant cell. So this is all that you need to understand. So the next topic that we are going to do will be under cell specialization. This is what we are going to do under cell specialization. So I just want to summarize this so that we understand everything that is here. We understand this topic clearly.